Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be a cowboy with the power of Thor's lightning? Well, now you can in the tough but savagely satisfying game Evil West. Vampires are trying to prevail as the superior race, and it's up to our spur-clanging hero Jesse to stop them. I don't know why, but Jesse is such a fitting name for a cowboy. Anyways, Evil West feels like a time capsule back to the PlayStation 2 days. But that's not a bad thing, and honestly, it's quite refreshing. In what will likely be the most underrated game of the year, Evil West delivers on a combat system so crisp and so fluid that Kratos would think it's his long-lost child. As nice as that sounds, there are a couple things that hold it back from being a masterpiece. Grab your revolver, saddle up, and let's dive into it. The first thing that jumps out at you and makes it clear what this game is all about is the combat. The combat system feels like something between a God of War and Arkham game. I'm not mincing words when comparing this game to two of the most highly regarded combat systems. It's that good. The responsive moves, snappy counterattacks, and godlike abilities put a grin on your face and stands hair up on your neck. The way the combat is progressively introduced is well done and feels like it's inspired from the recent Doom games. You're presented with new enemies that require either a sequence of hits or abilities to take them out efficiently. You can button mash your way out of some fights, but as you progress, it becomes very difficult to be successful with that approach. The weapons used to combat these vampires and monsters come in the form of classic cowboy toys with a twist. The revolver, rifle, crossbow, shotgun, and TNT are all standard issue, but it's the upgrades and melee abilities that really get the party started. Your melee weapon of choice is a gauntlet that would give Thanos a boner. It's electrically charged with a grapple and 3 Wolverine claws for shits and gigs. It is easily the highlight of the combat and the center point for all of your combos and power moves. The abilities complement this gauntlet by providing additional finishers, movement abilities, and AoE effects to handle larger mobs. What makes the combat so satisfying is all of these weapons and abilities work in harmony together to create this beautiful dance with vampire brutality. Each encounter challenges you to utilize most of your kit and test your reaction time. That's where the countering system comes in to save the day. It feels like a similar system to the Arkham series where you can animation cancel to save your bacon from an attack. With how chaotic fights can get, it feels so satisfying being able to hit a last-second counter from a flanking enemy. While it sounds like you have weapons and abilities to make you a cowboy Thor god, this game is hard. It's not unfair by any means, but it will test your skills. You're gonna die a lot. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but rather each death is a lesson learned. You get a brief moment to identify what you did wrong, make a mental note, and hop back into the action. It's what old school games used to be all about. Reach a hard point in the game, beat your head into a wall a few times, make adjustments, persevere, become stronger, and do it all over again. It feels so good. They essentially took what made old games fun and married it with modern combat, graphics, and mechanics. It without a doubt has some of the best combat you will play in a game this entire year. While the combat feels otherworldly, it's the campaign and replayability of it that brings Jesse back to Earth a little bit. The campaign isn't bad, but the plot is very straightforward and pretty predictable. Luckily, it feels like the team at Flying Wild Hog knew what made this game stand out, and they don't let the campaign get in the way of the combat. Each mission is linear with a few olive branches scattered throughout that lead to loot and some lore books. With every game under the sun being open world nowadays, it felt oddly refreshing getting thrown into a game where you just push W and go full send ahead. The missions themselves are even structured to get you into combat as often as possible. It's very similar to Doom, where you enter an arena-like room and can't advance until you eliminate the waves of increasingly difficult enemies. When you're not in combat, you're waltzing to the next encounter to take on more baddies. You'll get the occasional puzzle to solve, but they're so easy a caveman can do it. It's not meant to be an insult, but more to showcase the team's own self-awareness to getting you back into combat as soon as possible. While the maps are pretty linear, I do encourage going off the beaten path when you can because of these loot chests. Some of these chests contain additional skill points and skills themselves. As the difficulty ramps up, these bonus points and additional perks can help make life a lot easier and be a literal lifesaver. The mission locations themselves are surprisingly stunning with an eclectic variety of biomes. I was expecting most of the game to take place in a desert or western type environment, but I was pleasantly surprised by the backdrops in this game. While it looks good and plays good, my biggest knock on this game is their co-op system. I love that they offer co-op, and it provides a great way to play with your friends in a genre that has very little co-op options in it. However, the co-op progression and saves only count towards the host player. That feels like such a huge miss that the second player can't reap the progression benefits and have to go backwards when returning to their own game. It would have been so nice to be able to progress with your friends and then pick up solo where you and your buddy had left off from. In a game that I seriously loved playing, that was a bit of a brief mood killer. The only other issue I have with the campaign is the lack of modes, which reduces its replayability. Once you beat the campaign, that's kind of it. There's harder difficulties which will certainly test your skills, but the enemy types don't change in New Game Plus. I would have loved to either see a horde mode, a roguelike dungeon climb, or the same campaign but have the enemies provide different abilities or counters. The combat is so fun that the challenge on higher difficulties is satisfying, but I wish there was more options. At the end of the day, Evil West knows what they are, and they do it extremely well. The combat system feels like it took the best mechanics from some of the best combat games and made it something of its own. The monster variety is substantial, the combat is challenging, and the combos will make you feel warm inside. It's not a game that got a lot of advertising attention, and I think this game will be overlooked by some. Don't miss out on this game. If you love Doom, God of War, or any of the Arkham games, you will not be disappointed with Evil West. While the campaign serves as a means to go engage in more combat, it could have been better. The co-op and lack of additional game modes keep this from being a holiday masterpiece, but it's one of the funnest games I've played all year. Evil West toes the line and nails their shots with an 8 out of 10. Does a game like Evil West catch your attention? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, tap that like button on the video. With the holiday season in full force, don't forget to tap that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future playthroughs, previews, and reviews. This is Josh Robinson with Joystick Gamer. Thanks again, and stay gaming out there, partner.